Hi there, my name's Chris Widener. I'm one of the co-founders of ROI Expert Advisors, and I just want to let you know that we are rebranding the Big Mo Real Estate Radio Show to ROI Real Estate Radio. Still great content. We're still going to be motivating, still going to be helping you make more money, but just wanted to let you know we are now ROI Real Estate Radio.
Well, it's a good day. Welcome to the Big Mo Real Estate Radio Show. I'm Chris Stegg. I'm joined here by my good friend and co-host Chris Widener. What a privilege it is to share this time with you all today. And purpose of our time here is to get motivated, build momentum, and make more money. That's what we want to help you do, and we want to have a discussion today. I think this is going to be a good time today. This is going to be a podcast that you're going to want to replay over and over again. And you can find us at bigmoradio.com. If you'd like to work with Chris or myself, you can go there to inquire. We're adding things to our site each day. Click the like button, the heart, Instagram, follow us on Facebook, and we'd love to be a part of your lives. And so today we've got a special time. We're going to really kind of think through this belief and unbelief, and how many times things that were said to us at a younger age, or even in our grown-up years, that keep us from moving forward. And there's a quote that Chris and I have talked through called this thing called fear. We all fear something, but fear is a misuse of the creative imagination that's been placed inside you. And so what's the opposite of fear? Well, faith and walking into things with maybe a new light. And so these are things that might interfere with building momentum. And momentum in a leader's life, we're all leaders, we're all leading people, but momentum is a leader's best friend. And momentum is what we want to talk about today, is how do we gain momentum, and how do we bring about ultimately more money? We're in the real estate space. We're business owners. We want to make more money. And so, Chris, I'm happy to share this time with you today. Welcome, brother.
Awesome. I see you're in a different place today.
I know. We've got,
after the podcast, Chris will be giving water ski instructions
on
on skis that look like they're about 75 years old. Didn't even know when those skis were made. They had combustible engines for motors on boats.
Yeah,
but apparently they did. I'm in a new place as well. So anyway, so let's talk about this, because if you want to make more money, you got to get rid of those problems that hold you back, and beliefs and thoughts and things that we were told that we hold on to. They affect us. And I'll start out with a story. Today, we're going to talk about three things. We're going to talk about what the problem is. We're going to talk about what kinds of things get said to us that create problems. Then we're going to talk about how to overcome it. I do personal coaching. So I have lots of coaching clients, and the first thing I do is I send them what's called a confidential personal profile. And it's literally everything about their entire life except their sex life. I don't care about their sex life, but I mean, I'm going to know what their family was like, where they were born into that family, what their parents, education, successes, finances, spouses, children, everything about them, work history, everything. And I had this gal who was about 50 years old. She was the president of the company. She had like 700 employees, I think, or 100 employees. I can't remember. She had a bunch of employees, a considerable size business. It was like a supplement business. And the business was owned by a 75-year-old man, lock, stock, and barrel. One guy owned it. She was the president of the company and worked for him. She ran the whole company. Well, and on about our second or third phone call, she said, "Chris, I'm really having a problem, and I'd like to talk to you about it." I said, "Okay, what do you want to talk about?" She said, "Well, my owner is so-and-so." And I'm, yeah. And she says, "Well, he gets mad at me, and he'll like start, get mad at me, start chewing me out, and I leave. I go to my office. I don't answer the phone when he calls. I don't answer his emails. I basically hide from him." And she's like, "I'm a 50-year-old woman. I make $500,000 a year running a, pharmaceutical company." And she's like, "Why do I do that?" And I said, "Did you read your personal profile?" And she said, "Read it. I wrote it." And I said, "Do you remember it?" She said, "Remember what?" And I said, do you remember telling me about how when you were a 7-year-old girl, your dad would scream and yell when he was angry and you'd run up to your bedroom and hide underneath the bed?
Mm.
And it was like the light bulb went off and she had never, here she was a successful woman and she couldn't even put two and two together inside her own head. It took a third party to say, hey, what about this? And then I continued to coach her business wise, but we got her into counseling to deal with some of those things because it was affecting her ability to efficiently lead that company and interact with the boss that she had.
Mm.
So let's talk about the root problem and the different places where we get messages from people that can affect us the rest of our lives. So the first one is obvious, right? What's the first one, Chris? Where do we get some of these messages?
Well, I mean, it's our childhood years.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up. I mean, it could be parents, it could be teachers, those people in our life that spoke to us at a young age. Could be something that you were struggling with in school, Chris. I mean, it could be something on the playground as early as your 5, 6, 7, 8 years, not
And
getting
they may not even say it to you. In prep
Yeah.
time, you made a good point. You said some kids will overhear a teacher telling a parent,
Yeah.
he's slow,
Yeah.
or he's not good at math,
Yeah.
and then you go, oh, an authority, a person who knows better, because I'm just a little kid, this
Mhm.
authority has now told me that I'm not good at math. So
Mhm.
now I know I'm not good at math. And then we avoid math the rest of our lives.
That's it. Well, like we're doomed. Like that's it. So when a child hears that, they hear that, okay, it's always going to be a struggle for me. So why do I even, go into that engineering industry or that, why would I ever desire to be a CPA or desire to be in the financial services or things like that, where it's going to have an effect on these children. And even at a later age, like in your college years, mentors, teachers, professors.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine went to an Ivy League school, and I
Yeah.
asked him to write me something once. And he said, oh, I could never write anything. I said, well, why not? He said, oh, when I was in the 8th grade, and he went to a very prestigious, this guy was born with a golden spoon in his mouth, now he's a hedge fund manager, very wealthy, successful guy. And he said, when I was in the 8th grade, I wrote a paper. And this guy, my teacher, wrote in big red ink, this is the worst piece of drivel I've read in my entire career of teaching.
Mm.
And he was in the 8th grade, and he tried to, he wrote as little as he possibly could the rest of his life, including going to an Ivy League school. So, teachers, parents, that's when you're a kid. When you're an adult, there's other people who does it when we're older. I mean, where do we get these negative messages?
Yeah, those that you choose to hang around with. I mean, that your sphere, your circle of influence. This is a quick fix for those that want to, move into another direction. Is it change who you're hanging around with? I mean, what you're reading, what you're watching on TV, who you're, I mean, this is a big deal. I mean, it's a quick, it's not an easy fix. There'll be some conversations.
So as adults, yeah. So as adults, it's your friends, whatever, and it is the things that you choose to read or watch. If you're watching TV and, because when you're a kid, your parents are telling you what you can watch. When you're adult, you can watch whatever you want. You have to ask yourself, is it good to be watching this? Yeah. Your spouse can also be a source, and you would never think that, right? You'd think your spouse would be your biggest cheerleader. Not true. Your spouse can be very detrimental to you.
Yep.
I think we all know somebody, and unfortunately, there's probably lots of people who are on this podcast listening who have a spouse who it could range everything from just sort of dismissive, like, okay, whatever, go do real estate, to I don't know how you could possibly be successful at real estate. Nobody likes you. I mean, there's like everything in between, just sort of dismissive, passive aggressive to you're a horrible person, or, you're a horrible spouse.
Yeah, I'll give you a good example. And this is a personal testimony. When I was younger, and even through my schooling years, I struggled through college just because there were people in my life that I had tutors. I didn't test well. It doesn't mean that I couldn't test. It just means I didn't test well. I would get distracted. I have a little bit of an ADD. I'm a little bit unfocused, easily distracted. And I don't know if you remember, Chris, but like when other kids would like finish the test and they go up to the teacher and they turn it in and they leave, like I wouldn't focus on like the task, the test. I would be like, why are they finished? Why are they, and I would just be thinking like, what's
smarter than them. How did they get that?
Yeah. How is that happening? Come on,
So you know what? We missed one source. One source is ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're
one
right.
source of negative information is ourselves. And when we give ourselves negative information, it's usually from misunderstanding what's going on around you. Right.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example as a speaker. I've been a professional speaker now since 1988. It's a very long time. And one of the things I tell speakers when I'm doing speaker training is do not ever assume why someone is walking out of your speech. Because when you're giving a speech, somebody's going to get up and walk out the back, right? Now, and we're going to be like, oh my gosh, I must be a horrible speaker. I'm boring everybody to death. They must not like what I'm saying, blah, blah, blah. No, they just got a text, their kid is sick. They got to go pick them up from school. That's why they left. But you can totally take that and spin it. And then we create it for ourselves. We don't even need a teacher or a parent or a spouse or whatever. We do it to ourselves sometimes.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, that's ultimately what happened through my 20s and my 30s. I had this childhood dream of mine to get into the real estate business. I loved the opportunity. I loved, the potential commission. I liked the freedom that it would give, the flexibility it would give. And so I went through my early adult years and even into my 30s, freaking out about tests. Well, you got to take a state and a national exam. And it's like halt, roadblock, and I remember
test taker
and not a test. And that was in my early years. And it just kept with me for all these years. And it was some of the teachers, and some of those early on in my life, but it was also myself, for accepting that at that time. And I remember when I decided to just change my thoughts and say, you know what, this is not who I am. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, it was almost to the point of where I studied. I had this new pathway to learn this new industry. And I remember, Chris, when I took the exam, I didn't pass the first time. I didn't pass the second time, but on the third time was a charm. And I got through, and it was like, man, I might as well have walked the stage of getting a doctorate. It was like, hallelujah. I mean, it was just an accomplishment. Yeah. And I realized that's something that was said early on in life that could cripple me, and that I would get through the end of my life, and there would be some regret there. And so here's the deal. It wasn't true. So, I mean, a good question might be, is it true?
But here's the problem. We don't even necessarily know if it's true, or we might even think it's true. And here's a great example. It's a very, very sad example, but the example of young women with anorexia, and men too. I know there are some men that have anorexia. They look in the mirror and they say, I'm fat. And they really believe they are fat. And they're not fat. Obviously, anybody can look at them and say, you don't have an ounce of fat on you, but they say, I'm fat. And to them, since they say it and they believe it, even though it's obviously and patently not true, that belief is something that's there, and thus it becomes true. And so I think it's important for us to understand that we can do our own problems as well. So, so let's talk about some of the messages that affect us. Let's talk about some of those messages. What are some of those messages that we get? I'll start. You're not good enough. That's just a big generic one. You're not good enough. What does that mean? Not good enough at sports, not good enough at math, not good enough at business, not good enough at relationships. You're not good enough.
Yeah, I'll never achieve this.
Right.
I've started. I'm a great starter, but I very rarely finish. I've habitually started something, and I've gotten really good at it, and I don't finish. So why should I tackle that diet again, or tackle that new, or refresh that venture again. You know, I mean, what else? What are some other things that
I
might,
think money, things around money,
right?
As real estate agents and our podcast, we're going to help get motivated, build momentum, and make more money.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't deal with some of these things, it'll be very hard to make more money, because if your belief is that money is bad, or that you're not good at making money, or whatever the XYZ LMNOP is for you on money, but a lot of these come from your childhood. I mean, your parents can say, we're not wealthy people.
Mm-hmm.
No one in our family has ever gone to college. We don't go to college. We, sort of this identity of who we are,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they don't say this is what's happening. They say this is who we are.
Right.
You are a poor person. You are a fat person. You are an ugly person. You are. And now if we are something, it's very difficult to think about how we could change it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am a 55-year-old white man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never gonna be Native American. I'm never gonna be Black. I'm never gonna be Asian. I am this. It's unchangeable. So when we tell people that we are something, we are embedding in that idea that we are never going to be able to change.
Mm-hmm. I mean, here's another one. It might be, I'm 6'5", 250 pounds. How many 6'5", 250-pound runners do you know, or do you see? I mean, it's like,
Not many.
yeah, I'm like, and so I'm like going, how could I ever run a half marathon? How could I ever compete? Because, little things like that halt us from going after something that we want to improve upon. I mean, there are some things that we tell ourselves each and every single day that are negative thoughts from our past that we keep replaying in our minds, that will halt even potential business. I mean, there are ideas. We're all created with creative minds, and there are thoughts and ideas. How many thoughts and ideas, Chris, would you think that go, I mean, unexecuted on? I mean, can you imagine?
Tons. People come up with ideas all the time and then don't exercise those.
And don't exercise those.
Somebody else does it and gets rich, and you go, I came up with that idea.
I came up with that thing, yeah. But somebody said back in the day that this is our last name, so we're doomed for, this. We're doomed for, there's nothing wrong with blue collar, but it's like blue collar can be, there's nothing wrong with blue collar. There's nothing wrong with white collar. There's nothing wrong with that. But some people just say that you're going to be an hourly waged.
Even the fact that we have to say that shows what culture says about it.
Yeah.
White collar, wealthy, they're good. Blue collar, middle class, not good. You're poor people, and even that is not true.
It's not true.
What it means is white collars tends to be wealthy, middle class tends to be not wealthy, poor. That's true, but it has nothing to do with you're a good person, you're a not so good person, you're a really bad person. And yet people believe these kinds of things. And so what are some thoughts that would hold back a real estate agent? Specific thoughts to the real estate business. What are some thoughts? I can throw one out. I'm not good at math. Math or money, right? I'm not good with math or money. So I probably won't be very good because I'm not very good at math, and there's square footages and there's dollar amounts and there's percentages. I just probably wouldn't. I'm not good at that.
Mm-hmm. My response to that is, do you know a good lender?
Right. Yeah.
Lenders are, because, if you stay in your lane as a real estate agent, you don't have to be exceptional at math. I mean, just the basics, just the basic fundamentals, but having people in your life that excel in those areas that you can come alongside and partner with will help you, get through. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So yeah.
And you hire to the things that you're not necessarily good at.
Yeah.
It's interesting how people will let these beliefs engulf them. I think here's another one. I'm not very good with colors or design or interior, or I can't tell if something is good, or I'm just not artistic at all. That's tends to be the word that people would use, and maybe you're not. But then again, to your point, hire an interior decorator, hire a home stager, hire away from it, but don't tell yourself I'm no good at this, therefore I can't succeed at that.
Let's say you have a history of selling homes in the low to mid 300s. That's your median price point, that you've sold over the years. Well, you want to get into luxury where that's 800,000 to 1.5 million. Well,
so, let me just stop right there. Let me stop right there, because that is a great example.
Yeah.
It's a great example.
Yeah.
What are the thoughts that could keep a $300,000 person to going to the $1 million person in terms of home sales? What are those thoughts?
Yeah, I don't look good enough. I don't have that type of, marketing, strategy that,
I don't have a nice enough car to take
nice enough
people.
Yeah, I drive a, beater, so
I didn't get a college degree.
Yeah.
Like there's all
I
sorts
don't
of
have that certification. You know what, they
feel
got
uncomfortable
that.
with wealth. I feel uncomfortable with wealth. There's so many things that will keep you from even making that jump.
Yeah. I mean, like I'm going to be the $300,000, master. That's my price point. So I'm just going to work harder, on, achieving those goals, when, man, you could work, with a few luxury clients, 4 or 5 of those deals a year over, 20 deals at a
I always, every time I go to a cheap restaurant and I see a really good waitress or waiter who's older, like a 50-year-old, but they're really good at what they do, I'm always like, why are they serving breakfast at Denny's? Like if I was going to spend 30 years in the waiter or waitress service business, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to walk a plate to a table and hand it to them, and then I'm going to give them a bill and I'm going to get 20%.
Mm-hmm.
I want those plates to add up to $200, not $20. Right. And I think the same thing could be true with real estate, right? It takes basically the same to sell a lesser house than it does a bigger house. Obviously, there's some issues when you get into super big, grand, big houses and some of those things. But for the, it's the same offer sheet. It's the same. You're dealing with a couple or a single person or whatever. So much of it is exactly the same. What's not the same is here in your brain.
Yeah. That same Denny's waitress could work at, Trulux or one of these
Ruth's Chris or
Ruth's Chris, where there's $200, for a family or a couple to come through. They're just offer. It's a different menu. But why do you think that is? People just get comfortable in their thoughts. I mean, they don't believe that they can put on maybe some different shoes and some slacks, or a nice, ironed shirt, because that's what they're doing. That's a great parallel to, selling homes at 300,000 versus 3 million.
Yeah.
And I think what you do,
believe me, I've met people who sell $3 million houses and they're no better. I mean, they're no better. I've bought a few expensive houses, and the people that I worked with were, they're not any brighter or more intelligent than the people selling the 300,000 or the $150,000 houses.
Well, here's what we know. Here's the truth. And here's the truth, that you can break through. And you can, if this is, you're listening to this and you're approaching a new year, a new opportunities, or if it's mid-summer, let me tell you, you start. So way back when I started in the real estate space, I started working open houses, and it didn't take me long to get out of the suburbia area back then, when homes were selling for like 250 and 310. I realized, okay, people that were coming through had that kind of a budget. They were first-time home buyers. They were, they were new to this area of real estate. The commissions are not going to be as great. I mean, after splits and taxes and all the other costs, just to do businesses, it's roughly $5,000 to $6,000. It didn't take me long to get into working in an urban part of Austin, where homes started at $500,000 and they went up to 800,000. Well,
Yeah.
here's what happened. The people walking through, had that type of budget.
Yeah.
And so the same, same thing offered, just a different part of Austin. And what happened is I shifted into becoming more of a semi-luxury agent. And now we're into that luxury agent, but I just shifted geographic. I just went from here to here. And it was just within a matter of 10 miles. And all of a sudden I was now a luxury agent.
Yeah.
And here's the cool thing. People that start coming through then and you take care of them and you provide remarkable service, guess what? They have friends and they have friends and they have friends. And all their friends have similar budgets.
Yeah.
And that's how things start to change. So too many people, too many agents just say, you know what, I'm doomed. I'm just going to kind of be that agent. It's a small example of what a small thing could shift your thinking.
Yeah.
And
So what, before we go into the last bit of this,
yeah,
I wanted to
yeah.
challenge our listeners to really do a deep dive.
Mhm.
If you're watching this, you're going to see me do this. I'm putting my hands up. I'm holding them up. But if you're listening, I'm holding my palms up, facing the audience, right? It's like I'm holding a mirror up. I can't tell you what your negative thoughts are. Chris can't tell you your negative thoughts, Chris Stegg. You're the only one who knows what's going on inside of your mind, unless, of course, you have a counselor or something like that. But I want you to dig deep and say, what are my internal beliefs and thoughts that are producing results that are not what I want and are holding me back? Because you need to find those out and you need to address those thoughts and beliefs. And how do you address those? Chris and I want to give you some ideas on how do you, okay, Chris, you're right. I've got this thought. I don't believe such and such, or I believe such and such, right? How do you get past that? Well, I want to quote a Bible verse, and I don't remember exactly where the Bible verse is, but it's a great verse. I love it. It says, "We must take every thought captive." And I love that because I create this mental imagery of like these thoughts, these like inside your brain, these thoughts running around, and they're like prisoners that have been on the loose. They've broken out of jail and they're wreaking destruction inside your brain. One criminal thought is running around saying, "You're ugly." The other criminal thought's running around going, "You suck." The other one saying, "You can't do anything with money." The other one, "You're a terrible real estate agent." And they're just running around in your head. What we must do is we must take those thoughts captive and throw them into thought prison. So the first thing you have to do is recognize what they are. And that's internal work that you have to do as the listener. But how do you take them captive? How do you replace those thoughts? And Chris and I want to give you 4 or 5 different ways, things that are important for us to capture those thoughts, but then replace them. So now we're taking those negative thoughts that are running around with destruction, we're sticking them way in the back in thought prison, and we're releasing a whole new group of people that are positive thoughts that are going to go out there and they're going to help you achieve that you want to do. So you mentioned the first one a little bit earlier when you were talking about who you surround yourself with. Talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I tell you, just changing the folks you choose to hang around with. Who are you hanging around with? I mean, are they speaking life over you? Or are they speaking negative over you? Are they encouraging? Are they discouraging? Are they on a trajectory, down, or are they on an up? Are they, if you're a married individual, if you've got a spouse, and their spouse, and they've been through multiple marriages and they're speaking down, and they're, who knows? I mean, who are you hanging around with? Are they improving, in their real estate business? Or are they just maintaining? Is it just kind of another day, another dollar type of people? I mean, that there's so many of that happening right now in the space. Are they a discount agent? Are they talking about how to justify discount rather than proving, what is your value?
Are they ethical? Are they
Are they
unethically?
Are they, yeah,
Are they
are
trying
they
to get you to cut corners and fudge the truth and, those kinds of things? And
do they
yeah, it's
operate
important.
they operate on values? Do they have boundaries? Or are they just whatever comes our way, we'll just conform, we'll just work with? I mean, so you can change that it might be a change of a brokerage, because maybe you sit in an office with other people that are in, you know,
Yeah.
negative, central. So how do we,
Used to talk about, Jim used to talk about, and he has an article actually that he wrote on it as well. And it's basically about the people you hang around with. And it says, what do the people you hang around with, what do they have you reading? What do they have you listening to? Where do they have you going? What do they have you doing? What do they have you saying? And he gives this whole list of like 12 or 15 questions like that. And then the very last question is that okay?
Mm,
Is that okay? Once you've said, here's what my friends have me saying, here's what they have me doing, here's what they have me believing, here's where they have me going, is that okay?
mm.
And I don't think a lot of people have ever done analysis of the people that they hang around with. And of course, there's old quotes, in 5 years, you'll be with some of the people you spend the most time with in the books you read. And there's lots of variations of that. You become like, in fact, there's a meme going around now. It's Denzel Washington is the one that I see it all the time. And it says, if you hang around with 5 rich people, you'll become the 6th. If you hang around with 5 good people, you'll become the 6th. If that's basically the premise of it. But so getting new friends.
Getting new friends, and this is
And I'm not suggesting you get a new spouse, but I am suggesting that if your spouse is that problem, getting some counseling and really working to see if you can make that work is
absolutely.
important.
I mean,
What about what about you mentioned about the things that we read? Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, so read and watch. I mean, what we absorb. Are these people listen? Yeah, the podcast you're listening to, but are you? Is it always the drama on TV or the episode of whatever it may be, where they're bringing that negativity into, which it's all fun and games at sometimes, but it's constant. And so
if the theme song of the TV show that you're watching that you love most starts out with "What you gonna do, what you gonna do," probably not watching the right television show.
Right. And it comes on at like 11:30 at night.
When they come for you.
When they come for you. Yeah. Yeah. Did you see that episode, the 1700th episode of Cops? Yeah. I mean, so what are you, what are you reading? What are you watching? I mean, what are you listening to? And those are some great questions to ask. I mean, people, if they're reading books, if they're in their word, if they're reading books on personal growth and how to improve on this skill or something of that nature, that might be something to kind of go, you know what, I could change. I could start to hang out with this person here. But it is so important. Readers are leaders. So you want someone that reads, and actually absorbs things and applies what they read, not just to read words, but actually read.
And the other thing is not just getting rid of negative things, it's backfilling it with positive things. So it's not just stop reading trash, although that would be great, or stop listening to trash, or stop watching trash, or stop talking trash. Instead, it's stop doing that, and your life will improve, but it's what do you replace it with? Positive things to read, positive things. I have a coaching client of mine, makes almost $1 million a year in sales, and we have him doing personal affirmations 3 times a day, and he wrote down affirmations that mean something to him. Now, I don't know what you think about affirmations, and I don't, I'm not like the old Saturday Night Live guy. I'm great and people love me. I don't know that I'm really into that, but I do believe that what we say to ourselves actually is important. And so 3 or 4 times during the day, he actually takes a break. And then I also asked him, I said, what are the music songs? What are the 2 or 3 top songs that every time you listen to that, you just feel, yes, that's awesome. And so 2 or 3 times a day, he puts the phone down, he walks out on his back porch, he's got a spectacular view, he puts that music on, and he says positive things, and it keeps him in that state of positive, affirmative belief throughout the day. And he makes a lot of money on sales, and it's all about keeping himself in that positive mental state. And I think that that's important. What do we replace it with? Not just what do we get rid of?
Yeah, that's so good. It could be an exercise routine. If you're not a bike rider, maybe you're a runner. Don't do something. If you like, I love to row. I like to row and I like to run. But my thinking, my imagination, the creativity, things start to wonder, and I'm not in my office, and if I could turn my laptop around here, I've got a table in my office with it sounds goofy, but it's a 1,000-piece puzzle. And I like to keep myself, sharp. And if I'm ever in a place where I'm going like, that's negative, I'll go over there, because there's something about putting something together and going, I mean, check, done, accomplished, winning. I mean, it could be that music that just fires you up, that gets you going. But that's what just replacing, taking that little break from, your office chair and getting into something that will help you with replacing those negative thoughts. So
absolutely. Well, as we close, why don't you wrap us up and give us something to think about as we go, and give the folks a good action point.
I like this, so here's a good something. Find out. So we want to apply what we've learned today. And so we know what works. If you're a seasoned agent, if you're newly licensed, there are some things, one or two or three things that we know will work, moving forward. But there's another thing that we think, what, this could work, because I think it has the potential. Like for instance, social media, video, there's some things like, what if you've not done that before, but it would stretch you, if you did it and you got better at it. What if you started a podcast, and you're saying, well, I could never start a podcast. Well, why not? Is it true? You can, but you can have someone to help guide you through. Maybe that's your sphere. Maybe that is someone that's had success in podcasts. Maybe could you reach out to them, have a phone conversation, say, hey, I want to launch this social media channel, or I want to launch this podcast, or I want to do this, whatever it may be. Then you can start taking those steps to, have that accomplishment and go, wow, I did it. That's how things start to form. So think of something that you've not yet accomplished, but you think, man, if I could do this, it would stretch you, and it would create maybe a new pathway to building and creating more money ultimately. So you can find us at bigmoradio.com. And my name is Chris Stegg. Chris Widener is here. It's always a joy to share this time with each of you today, this evening, whenever you're choosing to listen to us. So find us at bigmoradio.com and like us on Facebook, go to our YouTube channel, go to our site. We're adding things into that site on a day-to-day basis, and you can inquire to reach out to us, find out more about who we are, and see if you would come and work with us. We'd love to partner with you and help you and just get to know you. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.
Hey folks, I'm hoping that you enjoyed that great episode. And I just want to remind you that we are now ROI Real Estate Radio. Be sure to check us out and share this video with all those who will enjoy it. Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye.